Good evening. This is a program about books, and what happens is simply this, that the people sitting here try to identify an extract which is read out by Richard Herndl or by John Moffat. After that, they go on to talk about the book and the writer. I'll introduce you to the people sitting here. Elizabeth Jane Howard, novelist.
Good evening.
Anthony Blonde, the publisher.
Good evening.
John Gross, Fellow of King's College, Cambridge.
Good evening.
And John Betjeman, the poet. Well, the first extract is read by John Moffat.
Yes, I'm a Catholic diabolist. This profession he made in an almost cursory tone. I could see that what was upmost in his mind was the fact that I had read Negations. His pale eyes had for the first time gleamed. I felt as one who is about to be examined viva voce on the very subject in which he is shakiest. I hastily asked him how soon his poems were to be published. Next week, he told me. And are they to be published without a title? No, I found a title at last, but I shan't tell you what it is, as though I had been so impertinent as to inquire. I am not sure that it wholly satisfies me, but it is the best I can find. It suggests something of the quality of the poems, strange growths, natural and wild, yet exquisite, he added, and many-hued, and full of poisons.
I somehow think it must be that last line, Anthony Blonde, which will undoubtedly give you the answer as to who wrote that passage.
Many-hued and full of poisons.
That, and
I hope you're
strange
giving me
growths.
clues.
Yes, I am. I'm
Yes,
hoping to.
I need them badly.
Oh,
for this
dear.
one. I was going to say, but it's such a good book, it's not very well known, that it's Nicholas Crabbe by
No.
Father Rolfe, and I'm sure I'm wrong.
You're wrong there. Elizabeth Jane Howard, do you spot the
Well,
author
I think
there?
Rolfe's a very good guess. I thought it was Edwardian.
Yes.
Sounds like that to me.
John Gross.
I think it's Max Beerbohm.
So do I.
Oh, bullseye, both of you.
I think it's Enoch Soames.
It is.
So do I.
It
Yes.
is. Now, I should reveal that Elizabeth Jane Howard, I think you spotted that on the run, on the when we were trying it out beforehand, and you very sportingly said that you wouldn't say out loud what it was.
But she would have got it.
Yes, she would have got it.
No, right.
What do you think of the book, John Gross? I mean, of the short story.
I think it's an absolutely splendid story. I think it crystallizes all that one feels about the Yellow Book, particularly all those haunting minor people. The fascinating thing about the 1890s is, in a way, the more minor, the more evanescent the writers are, the more fascinating they are. And here is Enoch Soames, who's the kind of quintessence of nothingness, in a way, and very funny and very sad as well.
I've always been told that Enoch Soames was Theodore Ratislaw. Do you know that Rugby poet who wrote Caprices, published by the Bodley Head, long, thin book in about the 90s, and then very late in life, almost in the 30s, I think he was reprinted by John Galsworth, and I think he died at Sunbury-on-Thames.
Well, that's very sad. That's very, very sad.
But do you think that, I'm glad it's Beerbohm, because we can, I hope, talk about his biography, which is very much being reviewed and sold heavily now, and I'm sure that this man, who was brilliant when young, did go off horribly sitting in Rapallo making these silly little complicated jokes, and that the biography has in fact deflated him. Did you not feel that as a reviewer?
Nothing would deflate Max Beerbohm for me. He's terrific.
I wonder
I think he's rather your
I
sort of
wonder if
man.
you tell me then, John Betcher, how would you sum up his quality?
Oh, a sense of style and a sense of place, and people don't like him today because we're all so serious today, and we think it's very wicked to enjoy being alive and not do very much.
But he
except what you're
did
good at.
buzz off, didn't he? It wasn't as though he was...
He abdicated. I mean, he didn't even speak Italian after 30 years in Rapallo.
Well, you might say that all of us abdicate who live in the country, or he lived his own sort of life, He did what he did perfectly. He never... I read one review which said was very angry with him for not bothering to learn Italian. Well, why should he learn Italian? I mean, he knew English very well and was jolly good at it.
I don't think he abdicated. I think he concentrated. The concentration of a real artist, a miniaturist in a way.
How much did he write in those last 30 years when people were going out to read
The
to him?
best broadcasting.
Yes,
You know, marvellous.
Could be. It wasn't alive.
No, you were, because he did it. I think he did some of the best of it during the war. Am I right?
Yes.
And in
he
his
did, I'm
caricatures,
sure.
I think it's fascinating to see him going back again and again to this period, the 90s, the Edwardian period. This is his material as an artist. He goes on perfecting it. He goes on obsessed with it, if you like. I think he was had the obsession of an artist.
He was a child of his age, and he remained a child. I don't mean that to be clever.
I wonder
but that's how I
how,
feel.
how anyone would account for the cult of Max Beerbohm. And I wonder if there would have been such a cult if his name had been Frederick Smith instead of Max Beerbohm. I wonder if the name ever helped.
I'm sure it did. In fact, I learned from the biography that he was christened Henry Maximilian Beerbohm. And, you know, if he'd been Henry Beerbohm, even, not to go as far as Fred Smith, I think this would have damaged the cult. Max Beerbohm has got the right kind of slightly raffish, slightly dandyish flavour, I think.
His appearance, too, and personality were all in keeping with his writing. I met him once. I spent a whole day with him. Most beautiful manners, spoke rather slowly and in a very considered way, and was dressed rather like how Osborne Lancaster dresses, you know, those large round eyes and moustaches and very neat clothes and very slow, considered speech. It doesn't go with the rough stuff. To no joy, if I may speak French.
No, but he wasn't rough, but I think he was tougher than the cult generally supposes. Those caricatures, which I think are the best things, and even the kind of verbal caricatures, something like Enoch Soames, are always revealing a kind of toughness, a kind of firmness. He believed in himself. He might have been a kind of petit maître, but what he believed in, he believed absolutely unshakably, I think.
Do you think it's a banal feeling to think that there is nonetheless still some unrevealed mystery about why this chap took off and lived for so long, I think about 40 years, in Rapallo? I mean, does anyone know? I mean,
Well,
why he
ran out
wanted
of
to
gas,
do that?
didn't he? And he knew he had. I think he had this...
You don't have to go to Rapallo, though. I think so.
Well, he published his complete works at the age of 26, rather conscious. He was there at the time.
Like paint lives, Paris. He just went there. It was his studio.
Any sort of idea what of dramatic?
I think to the dramatic event. On the whole, I think the old theatre reviews make pretty dismal reading, but I'm sure that his are much better and much more exhilarating than going to most of the original productions.
Would they stand up to reprinting as Shaw's?
Well, they have been reprinted,
so marvellously
and
well.
they stand up to reprinting and rereading.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote one classic, Zuleika Dobson, which I think is going to last forever and a day, and should be turned into an opera. Everything.
Let's go on to the next
Sorry.
extract, which is going to be read by Richard Herndl.
The stage is more beholding to love than the life of man, for as to the stage, love is ever matter of comedies and now and then of tragedies. But in life it doth much mischief, sometimes like a siren, sometimes like a fury. You may observe that amongst all the great and worthy persons whereof the memory remaineth, either ancient or recent, there is not one that hath a degree of
Francis.
Oh, you're too clever.
So would I.
Very good. Both absolutely right. The silence then rolled in like some...
It's obviously an essay, isn't it?
No,
Well,
I can't give you many
I don't
positive
know
points for to be awarded
I
for
don't
that.
know which one.
He
But
only wrote
it's sort of
essays,
elegant
no more
and
so.
strong and clear and fierce and arrogant.
Did you recognise it, Elizabeth Jane Howard?
No, I didn't. I got the time. That's absolutely all I can honestly say I got right about it.
You went to it just like an arrow to the target. Was it because you recognised the actual thing, or is there a resonance about this that...
No, it was the resonance and the flavour of it. I think the, what Anthony Blonder said, the slightly dogmatic, very sharp, almost epigrammatic self-confidence. Also, the constant harking back to examples from antiquity, great persons. It's like a little sermon, I think.
John Betjeman he says that no great man has ever been transported by love to this mad degree.
Oh, I don't
Can you
know.
think?
I don't really enjoy Bacon's essays. I was made to do them at school, and they seem to me all thought and nothing visual. Therefore, there wasn't the kind of thing that appealed to me, and I couldn't understand what that sentence was that was read out, except that the use of the word beholding obviously showed it was Elizabethan writing. What is the bit about beholding?
I've got it in front of me. Let me see. Where is it? The stage is more beholding to love than the life of man.
Yes, that was all I noticed, prose style, and then the sentiments were dry enough to be Bacon. What is
Was he
truth,
an
said
unhappy chap?
jesting Pilate. Would not stage
You
an
would
answer.
Was he an unhappy chap?
Well, he wasn't very interested in love, I think.
Wasn't he a homosexual?
Oh, absolutely. And certainly I think he was probably thinking of romantic love. It's rather interesting to think that this is written by a man who's writing in the same generation as Antony Cleopatra, shall we say.
Ah, now that's a good thing. I wonder why they
write
chose...
that.
I wonder why they chose Bacon, of all people, to pretend that he'd written Shakespeare. I wonder why Bacon. Can you think why?
People resented the fact that a more or less unlettered person should come out with such glorious prose, and they just looked around for a likely aristocrat. I mean, Bacon could read Greek at the age of 5. He sounds to me a most unattractive man.
Yes, he was a very clever man, but nothing like Shakespeare, one would imagine.
No.
Well, I think that he was perhaps, if one just had to give medals, the most important, the most striking Elizabethan apart from Shakespeare. He's certainly not in Shakespeare's class. And in a way, if you think of how he laid down a plan for the whole future development of science without being a scientist himself, in a way he's influenced us, he's influenced the subsequent history of human beings more than Shakespeare has.
Well, he says in this piece that no great man has been transported by love. I just wondered if you had by now thought of someone who had been transported by love and could be said to be a great man.
It seems to me that that's an extraordinary remark to make, really. It's the last thing you'd know about a great man, isn't it, really? I don't see how you'd know whether he'd been transported by love.
Well, they tend not
To a
like
mad
being
degree.
selected.
I mentioned Antony Cleopatra, and certainly to the Elizabethans, I think, and lots of other people as well. Antony is the classic example of the great man transported, deflected, destroyed by love.
Well, he just lost the battle. I mean, he might have won it. I think he had his eye on the fleet as well as on her aspect body.
Well, I don't think Bacon has laid the vein open quite as it should. Let's go on to the next one, and this one is read by John Moffat.
Harrow and Trinity College. I ought to have sent you to sea, but I stood you in education, and what have you done for me? The things I knew was proper you wouldn't thank me to give, and the things I knew was rotten you'd said was the way to live. For you're muddled with books and pictures and china and etchings and fans, and your rooms at college was beastly, more like a whore's than a man's. Till you married that thin-flanked woman, as white and as stale as a bone, and she gave you your social nonsense. But where's that kid of your own? I've seen your carriages blocking the half of the Cromwell Road, but never the doctor's brougham to help the missus unload.
Now, you know.
Mary Gloucester, Kipling.
Yes.
It's a splendid poem. Meter makes you, I mean, if we'd only gone through the whole thing, everybody would have been in tears, wouldn't they, from the emotional
You don't think it's
strength
just
of
that bit cod?
Oh, not at all. It's about a baronet, a man who's been made into a baronet for being a successful ship owner, dying.
I did guess if it was Kipling. I think I'd doing things in a way that, against your will, you have to admit how good he is, again and again. It's
No
that
rot about taste. That's
A
what's
short
so good about
story.
Kipling.
Where did Anthony Blonde, did you know the poem?
I didn't know the poem. I put down Kipling on my little pad, just in case, you know.
Where does Kipling stand, do you think? Does he stand behind the speaker of that speech, or what does he... what does he-
Yes, I think.
Oh, I think
Plonk.
so. Yes.
Really
I tell you
does,
who also stands behind Kipling. George R. Sims, round in the sensuous gallop, the high-born maids are swung, clasped in the arms of roués, whose vice is on every tongue. That meter, which in turn derives, I don't want to be showing off, but it comes from Adam Lindsay Gordon, the poet who went to Australia.
John Gross, do you enjoy the conversational expertise of that sort of poem?
Yes, I do. I think this is one of Kipling's best poems.
Good.
It's sometimes bracketed with MacAndrew's Hymn, that other kind of monologue. I'm not certain that I don't think this is better. I think John Betjeman absolutely put his finger on it. It's a complete lack of taste, which in fact enables Kipling to plunge in. I remember the poem opens something like, Dick, it's your daddy, he's dying, and you've got to listen to me. And one wants to curl up and die oneself at a moment like this. But somehow he takes one absolutely storming through it. And it's more than just a wonderful dramatic monologue, though I think it's that. There's a great deal of social history in it. You've got this marvellous picture of the self-made man who set out with a lot of Scottish engineers and ruthlessly kind of worked his way to the top in the middle of the 19th century. You've got his son, whom he sees, at any rate, as effete and effeminate and a kind of aesthetic yellow book kind of character. And as I say, I think it's more than just a marvellous dramatic monologue, though it is that, but you've also got, almost in miniature, a little history of the change of Victorian taste.
Well, that's all very well, but I mean, if the writer is standing behind this monstrous man who's talking, I don't know the poem.
Oh, no.
Well, allow me to finish. Just this verse. This is the only verse I know, and anyway, because I've just read it, just heard it read. It seems all wrong to despise someone for liking, China and etchings and fans and all the D's left off and apostrophes. I hate that sort of patronage, incidentally. But what's good about disliking books and pictures?
Well, I don't think that Kipling stood fairly and squarely behind
That's
him.
what
I think
I
that he was half detached. I think that he was dangerously attracted by this kind of feel.
He's moved, as I think anybody would be, by the feeling of this fellow had the guts to go out and make a million, buy a baronetcy, and send his little pup to Harrow. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Harrow and Trinity. Where'd he go on to from Harrow?
Harrow and Trinity.
It's always been a convent school anyway, made for self-made men. And he's livid with him for being such a sissy, and quite right too. But then, of course, he shouldn't have sent him to Harrow, because this is what they specialise in producing.
I wonder if this is something that only men understand. What do you think about that, Elizabeth? Just a minute. Elizabeth Jane Howard.
Oh, I reduced a general remark about Kipling, which whenever I read him, I'm sort of overwhelmed by what a lot he knew. You know, in anything that you read, he has an enormous amount of information which he uses. And each time you read one particular thing, you think, oh, well, of course he would know about this, or he might know about that. But really added together, it's staggering.
The marine engineering, for instance, you remember that thing, the ship that found herself, and then Sussex coming out, they shut the road through the woods 70 years ago, weather and rain have undone it again, and now you would never know there was once a road through the woods. You couldn't think that the man who'd done Harrow and Trinity College could also have done...
When he lived in
those
Sussex,
two.
Betjeman.
It's not actually so much knowledge as the pretense of knowledge, rather like an actor playing the part, but playing it utterly convincingly, is it? Anyway, shall we try another one? This extract is read by Richard Hernble.
You have to beat a planet at its own game, said Chatterton. Get in, rip it up, poison its animals, dam its rivers, sow its fields, depollinate its air, mine it, nail it down, hack away at it, and get the hell out from under when you have what you want. Otherwise, a planet will fix you good. You can't trust planets. They're bound to be different, bound to be bad, bound to be out to get you, especially this far off, 1 billion miles from nowhere, so you get them first. Tear their skin off, I say, drag out the minerals, and run away before the damn world explodes in your face. That's the way to treat them.
What horrible knowingness, Elizabeth Jane Howard. Who wrote it?
Well, I'm going to have a guess now. I think that it might be C.S. Lewis.
No?
It isn't.
No.
Then I'm lost, then.
Does Anthony Blonde know?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know SF, but the word science fiction, I mean, the word planet, Foxed. Nice stuff, very well read. Don't know, John Gross does.
Does he?
Don't know for sure. Sounds awfully like H.G. Wells to me.
No? No, John Betjeman.
I think it's an American.
You've got me there. I'm not sure where
Get the
he
hell
is.
out. Is it Ray Bradbury?
Yes. Is he an American?
I'm not sure.
Does anyone know?
Fiction, anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, he is American.
Yes.
Oh, it certainly
He
is.
lives in America, anyway.
You
but I
get
don't
the
think
hell out of something. I don't think C.S. Lewis, you see, would
You don't
mention hell in that sense.
theological sense.
Do you respond to that sort of stuff?
He's awfully good. I used to think, Ray Bradbury. I don't like it. No, it's just like I don't like bacon.
A completely different country, an absolutely different setup. I thought that it might be Lewis, because he can put another point of view, and he had this angry, very materialist scientist You know, the three of them who went to the
yes.
first, who went to
Yes.
Mars, I think, the first time in his trilogy. And I like those books very much because he really does make me see a kind of country that I couldn't have invented for myself and isn't like anywhere.
I wonder if it is invention rather than imagination, John Gross, in science fiction.
Firmly here on the Earth we know, and there is an intrusion from something alien. I said H.G. Wells, when he's put you right down in the home counties,
Yes.
in a
so do
world
I.
one knows all too
One at a
well,
time, one
and
at a
then suddenly this alien presence or phenomenon stalks in. I don't like totally imaginary worlds.
I quite agree with you. I think they're the equivalent of sort of Jack the Giant Killer fairy stories, which could take place anywhere, and therefore they aren't half as good, as John Gross said, as when you've got some home place, some description of a very ordinary thing, and then a very thing happening in that setting. Science fiction doesn't mean...
Oh, what about...
Which Cook